Hello and a warm welcome to the Transform Your Wellness podcast. I'm Karen Hagberg, your host and dedicated wellness and life coach. My mission is to guide individuals towards profound transformation in their well-being and life journey, fostering balance, optimal health, and their pursuit of a fulfilling existence. You can join us on the Transform Your Wellness podcast for genuine and inspiring dialogues with remarkable individuals who are wholeheartedly dedicated to their passion and soul's calling. These conversations delve into the journey of those who have not only revolutionized their own lives, but also strive to empower others in their transformational endeavors, making meaningful contributions to the world. Today, I have the absolute privilege to have a heartfelt conversation with Donna-Leigh. Perfect. And I came across Donna on Facebook in a group called Vanlife. And I was drawn towards connecting with her as we seem to have a few common interests, such as van life, travel, house sitting, fitness, and more. Donna-Leigh Perfect is a beacon of resilience and empowerment, serving as the 2018 International Women's Day Ambassador in Social Justice and Equality. As a global keynote speaker and three-time published author, she captivates audiences with her journey from adversity to triumph, guiding them from a place of being perfectly bullied to finding inner peace and gratitude. Her remarkable life story transcends extreme childhood trauma, including experiences of murder, foster care, and abuse, leading her to a place of peace and gratitude. Donna-Leigh is the visionary founder of the global gratitude chain movement, fostering connection worldwide through the simple act of mindful gratitude. In addition to her impactful speaking engagements, Donna-Leigh is an NLP practitioner and lifetime suicide prevention telephone counselor, driven by her passion to combat bullying in communities. She recently participated in the International Anti-Slavery Commission Human Trafficking Conference in Las Vegas, highlighting her commitment to social justice. Her influence extends to corporate events globally, where she shares her transformative peace tools, honed through experiences like speaking at the 2015 Commonwealth Games Community Arts Project and prestigious platforms like International Ignite and 10X Stages. Donna-Leigh's dedication to empowering youth is evident through her Resilience Rockstar Children's Show and Perfect Peace program, and reaching schools across Australia with invaluable tools for resilience and self-discovery. And the title to this podcast is The Power of Gratitude. And it is such a pleasure to have you here, Donna, with me today. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's lovely to be on your podcast.
Yeah, amazing. So, when I heard and read this bio about you, and also when I saw you on Facebook, I just knew that there was a huge story behind you and what was driving you. So I'd like to start, I guess, from the start. So tell me a little bit about where you're from and how it was when you were growing up.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a Kiwi. So, I spent the first, what is it now, 28 years of my life in New Zealand. And I've now been in Australia for 30 years. And my childhood growing up until the age of 7, I thought was pretty normal. I was the youngest of 5 children and also a twin. So I'm a twin. I have a twin brother who is 25 minutes older than me. And, life was busy, hectic, as you could imagine, family of 7 and both parents working. And so, the household was always busy. But there was tension quite often in my parents' relationship, and I think also some alcohol abuse. And so, I did witness when I was young some, arguments and so forth happening between my parents, and but I didn't really realize the extent to which this kind of, I guess, dysfunction had reached in their relationship. So, sadly, on a very cold August morning in Auckland, I woke to hearing my mum screaming, and I was in bed, and I jumped out of bed and ran to the corridor, and I noticed that my mum was hysterical, and my father was chasing my mother down the staircase with a knife.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Hmm.
So before that event, you said you knew there were a little bit of conflict and stuff like that, but I guess you were so young. So when you're so young, you don't really understand too much to what extent maybe there were frustration or whatever was going on there.
Yeah, I think as a 7-year-old, it's very hard to get, a perspective on things, and you're very I guess, self-absorbed. And so, as long as you've got your toys and you're happy and you've got your siblings to play with, then life's pretty good, and you've got food in your tummy. So, to kind of understand the dynamics of a relationship at 7 is very difficult. But, I do recall just little things, arguments between them and so forth, but nothing to this extent. So, I was very traumatized, as you can imagine, this morning, and my siblings had all woken up as well, and sadly, my mother was reaching for the sliding door of the handle to try and escape, but didn't make it in time, and my father drove the knife into her back, and she tried to survive. She stumbled down the side path of the house and collapsed to the ground, and I'll never forget that. I'd seen my mum take her last breath, and with what seemed like seconds, there were just people everywhere, crowds of people and sirens, and it just seemed like absolute chaos, and almost surreal. It's kind of a hard, even speaking about it now, all these years later, it's when I reflect on it, on that moment, it was so kind of unreal. And I guess you're experiencing so many emotions and so much trauma all at once, and you're in a state of shock that it's very hard to kind of get any, I guess, perspective or logic in the moment. And so it all seemed a bit surreal and strange. But I do remember seeing my father drive off in the back of a police car, and then very quickly we were all gathered up and taken to my cousin's house down the road. And I remember sitting on the couch and hearing on the news that a woman had been murdered in our street, and I just thought, oh my God, that's my mum.
Wow.
And sort of just then in that moment hearing that, it's like, wow, it seems like a nightmare. It seems like, is this real, or is this, just something that I've dreamt? So it's a very strange thing to kind of explain or express.
Oh, I can't imagine how. I really can't put myself in the shoes of a position like that. It isn't it amazing, the coping mechanism really of what humans do to, I guess, just how we process things. What about your siblings at the time? How did you kind of get together at that moment, or was everyone dealing it in kind of different ways? Did it bring you together in the end, or did it kind of separate you a little bit?
That's an interesting question. I think in the moment we were like, it was almost like just shuffling us into a car and driving us down the road. And so I really don't even remember that part of it, to be honest. I remember sitting in the lounge and hearing that news on the radio, but I don't remember kind of how we were. I know we were hysterical. I know there was lots of crying and screaming, and my sister was 8 years older than me, so she would have processed it as a 15-year-old so differently to me as a 7-year-old, and then my brothers would have processed it differently, being male, and so I guess we all kind of look at things differently, and where you are positioned in the family has a big aspect of that, and your coding and all that kind of stuff that you've had as a child also kind of, reflects on how we deal with trauma in the moment, even as little children. And so, unfortunately, because there was 5 of us, it was very difficult for the family to take us on and take care of us. So we ended up being the order of the state and being put into foster homes. And we were separated. So my sister was old enough to kind of go flatting, and so she didn't go into foster homes, but my older brothers were all kept together, and my twin brother and I were mostly kept together. So that was traumatizing too, not only to lose your mum and then your father goes to prison, and then you're separated from all your siblings, and it's like trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. And then you're going into a strange house, living with strangers you don't know, and going to a new school that you don't have any friends, you don't have any support network, there's no counseling. It's just survival. And it's when I kind of pull it all apart and look at it now as an adult, I can't comprehend how child safety and so-called child protection systems allow that kind of abuse and trauma for children ongoing like that. It's really surprises me.
Yeah, that's a lot to deal with, as you say, on top of one thing after the other, and so much loss. No doubt that's formed you into the person you eventually have become, and we make decisions in life, don't we, based on things that have happened to us. Would you agree with that? That it's
yeah, absolutely, Karen. And I think it's so interesting, even as I say, where you are in the family, the position you are, and so many variables as to how you deal with that situation and the ongoing trauma moving forward in your life. And so, we went to 13 foster homes, and when we moved from one foster home to another, there was no explanation for why we were moving. It was just put your things in a rubbish bag and get in the car.
Wow.
And you'd be going to another home and another school, and so you just make a network of friends and then you'd be moving. And so not only I was also kind of, I guess, a little bit unique and different because I was traumatized and I probably wasn't behaving like a child of my age, and so I probably stood out at school and I became a target for bullies.
Okay.
And so I would go home to foster homes, and a lot of these foster parents were abusive. So I was abused on many levels in the foster homes I stayed in, and then you'd go to school and I'd be bullied at school.
Wow. I was just going to ask that. Did you have any good experiences from the foster homes you were in? Did you have some that you felt really loved and cared for? And
The first one, which is kind of a blessing, I guess, because that was probably where we were most kind of raw and vulnerable and needing, to feel loved and secure after traumatizing, that's such a traumatizing experience. But the mother was a Catholic lady, and she was a single mum with two daughters, and she was very nurturing and very caring, and she used to read stories to us in bed at night, and it just gave me a bit of respite from the reality of my life for a moment, and gave me a break and gave me an opportunity to escape into a fantasy story and get a bit of peace in my life. And so that was beautiful, and it's really interesting because I now look at that as almost being a full cycle back to possibly why I'm a children's author today, because I was never planning to be a children's author. It was never in the cards or anything. And so, it's interesting how when I reflect on my children's books, and they're about my daughter and our rescue dog, Rocky Rockstar, and the life lessons he teaches her about kindness and compassion. And he's a foster dog, so he came from a foster home. So we had this synergy, Rocky and I, and then, so the resilience there and the compassion, but then, now sharing those stories with children is almost like going back to my childhood and how meaningful and nurturing that was for me, and made me feel loved in a moment where I really needed to feel loved. And so it's kind of interesting, that full circle of life, how it can come back round. And another phenomenal thing about this particular story is when finally the foster authorities recognised after many decades that there were a lot of child trauma in the foster homes, and they needed to address this. So there was a massive, claim against the authorities in the foster home system in New Zealand, and thousands of people came through, and they came to Australia to interview me about my personal situation there. And after, I think it would have been 2 or 3 years of investigating my file and doing all that, they offered me some compensation. Now, it wasn't a lot of compensation, but I decided to put that money aside. And this is just, this whole thing is just so interesting how the universe works, So I put this money aside with this conscious decision that I wanted that money to make a difference in children's lives. And I didn't know how, I didn't know what it was going to do, but I just knew I had to put it aside, and it had to have a significant impact, a legacy.
yeah.
And so when I wrote these children's books, and the cost to publish these 2 books was almost identical, and almost to the dollar of the amount that was in this bank account. I developed a life-saving app that went in with the book, and it was promoting the 13 life-saving support services. One was Lifeline, which I was a volunteer on the phones in Sydney for 2 years after I'd reached out to Lifeline myself and just needed to get some healing as a early adult, and realizing that I really needed to work through my trauma and really start to heal from everything I'd been through in my past. And so that was an amazing way to give back to, to a service that had helped me to heal and then be able to volunteer. And so I wanted them to be one of these services on my life-saving support app.
Wow. So what year was that you were writing those books. And had you done any other training prior to that? Because I know you've done your NLP as well. Did you?
Yeah, that was only recently in LP. So 2018, I wrote the books and I launched them November 2019 with the purpose to be traveling around Australia and doing my author journey and also taking my Resilient Rockstar show into schools, and so then COVID hit, and we had different plans for us, didn't we? So no more events and no more school incursions and no more, so that was a good 3 years of just resilience again, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So is that something you're going to kind of do now? You're getting those books out now?
Yeah, that is my purpose, is to pretty much relaunch them again, because they were launched and then didn't have an opportunity really to get out into the community. So so I'm looking. I've sort of just done this amazing kind of road trip, and it's been a regional kind of road trip from the Gold Coast all the way down to the bottom of New South Wales, across the Victorian border, onto the Great Ocean Road, up through Mount Gambier Road, and of course the Barossa Valley, because I love wine. I couldn't miss that part. And across, pretty much the guts from South Australia across Victoria and New South Wales again. And I visited a few libraries and just spoke about my books and also my Resilient Rockstar show. And there was a lot of interest in me coming and doing an author journey and getting into their local regional schools and, just helping kids to build resilience post-COVID and, just inspire them to believe in themselves. And so it is exciting, and it is something that I'm definitely looking to do moving forward.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What a beautiful thing. I was going to say resilience is really everything. If we can get us all to build resilience, I mean, that's makes a massive difference in life, doesn't it?
It sure does. It sure does. And, I do believe that everybody has it within them. It's a matter of just tapping into it. And, once you can overcome adversity, it's an incredible healing. It gives you purpose in life. It gives you a sense of meaning and direction, and leads you on a path. And if you can embrace the lessons you learn through adversity, what a gift, what a beautiful gift. And so that's kind of how I look at my life. And when I was 12, this was the last foster home I was in. The woman was incredibly abusive toward me, and I'd been there for just over, I think it was a year and a half. And the authorities came to the house and put a very, very difficult decision to me. And for almost 12-year-old, I think an impossible decision. But so the foster officer came to the house and said, Donna, you have two choices. You can stay in foster care until you're 18 and free to leave, which of course meant more of the abuse that I'd already experienced, or return to your father who's been released from prison.
Oh, wow.
The hardest thing about that decision, Karen, was to return back to the house where he murdered our mum.
So you made that decision?
I did. And the reason I made that decision was because I felt that we would be a family again, and I would be reunited with my siblings, that regardless of how dysfunctional that family looked like, it was a family, and there was some sense of stability instead of moving and moving and moving. And so I guess that was kind of the reason, and it's crazy to say, but love is unconditional, isn't it? True
So,
love.
so how was that a reunion, I suppose, when you met your dad? And did your siblings also make that decision to come back?
Yes, yeah. So all of my brothers and myself returned to the house. My sister was already old enough, but it was incredibly traumatic.
Yeah.
So my mother's death, her murder, was never talked about.
Mm.
So my father just, pretended it never happened. He was an alcoholic. He was a schizophrenic. He had mental health issues. He slept with a knife next to his bed every night, and that's how we knew, that if we stepped out of line, or so we'd already seen what he was capable of, and so we lived in terror. We lived in fear, and he'd threaten my brothers quite often with violence if they didn't, do what he expected of them. He was, racially discriminating. He was pro-Nazi. He was incredibly intelligent, genius. So he spoke 4 languages fluently, including German,
Wow.
and just pretty much an alcoholic that eventually drunk himself to death when I was 17.
So how could even they let a man out
Mm.
and let him get custody of his children again? That I don't really understand how that's even possible.
Mm. Yes, exactly. And I think, this is something that I'm trying to, process and understand myself, is how the authorities could allow that ongoing abuse to children. And, just being in the environment, Karen, of knowing, that mum had been murdered there. And I had nightmares. I used to have nightmares in bed, and they'd be delirious. Like I'd wake up in sweats, and I'd have like nightmares that the wallpaper was kind of trying to suffocate me. And this was all trauma. This was all trauma that, was coming out, and in my behavior and everything. And, my brothers were taking cannabis on a daily basis. We were numbing our pain. I started taking it at quite a young age, and it was a way to numb all of the trauma that we hadn't processed and hadn't had counselling for.
Yeah, I was going to say, it makes nearly perfect sense that there would be something like that coming into your life to maybe, a coping mechanism somehow. And often, obviously, that ends up being, perhaps not the most helpful things in life. We try to bury things, perhaps, and self-sabotage, that deep down that, why did I end up in this position,
The unhealed child.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, did they take you on a path for a long time, kind of a path that wasn't so good, would you say?
Yeah, it did. It did. And I guess, because my brothers were experimenting with all kinds of drugs, it was kind of just, so kind of available, I guess, and easily accessible. And because my father was drunk most nights, he wasn't present in my life much. And so I kind of had all this freedom and lack of barriers and boundaries. And we know now today that those lack of boundaries make a child feel very unloved. And so, but at the time, no curfews, can do whatever I want as a teenager, made it very risky, made, my teenage years very risky. So yeah, it was a very kind of
Yeah.
colourful teenage time for me. And then when my father died, I was 17 and I had to fend for myself. So I had to get out in the real world and get a job and support myself financially. And so it was during this time that I guess I sort of started to really look at my life and where I was going and the direction it was heading to. And it wasn't a good one, and made me reflect on things and kind of that fork in the road, do I go left or right? And I decided just one night when I was really at quite a a low point in my life to reach out to Lifeline and just start to process what I'd been through. And I remember the counsellor on the phone was, I think, quite overwhelmed, because there's no way we're going to deal with what you've been through over the phone. And so she said, oh, look, I really encourage you to come in and get some face-to-face, which was the start of my healing process. And it was amazing. So I did that, and then was encouraged to become a volunteer crisis telephone counsellor on the phones in Sydney. And I did that for 2 years, and that was incredibly meaningful. It just enabled me to give back and help others, and it was healing for me too.
Absolutely. Wow. And so you did that for a while, and you've got a daughter too. So you obviously then had entered at some point a relationship. When did that happen, and what was?
So my son was born in Sydney in 1999, and I was married to their father, and we lived in Sydney for a number of years, and then decided that we would come to the Gold Coast to live, and that's where my daughter was born, on the Gold Coast. And then the marriage kind of broke up after too many renovations. I think too many, going from one house to another, renovating kills any marriage, I think.
No, you can see me laughing there because it sure can. But was he a good man? Was he a good choice for a father for your children?
Absolutely. He's a good father, and the children have a great relationship with him today, and so that's a blessing. And I'm so proud of my children. My children are, they are resilient, and they've been through tough times themselves, and they've overcome adversity, and they are flourishing in their own careers, and entrepreneurs, and doing extremely well. And they're compassionate, kind human beings, and it's just so lovely to see their growth and growing into beautiful adults.
That's amazing. So obviously they know your story too.
Yes.
And I mean, obviously you must have worked on your trauma to be able to give them that, stability and care and love for them to turn out in the way they've turned out in life. And it must be so wonderful for you to see, eh?
It is. I'm so grateful for that. And, I think it's interesting. We often, and I talk about this on stage quite often, is the equation of life. And the equation of life is E plus R equals O. So E is the event. And, sometimes we don't always have control over the event, for instance, COVID. But our response, the R in the equation, is where the power is. It's our response to the event that creates the O, which is the outcome. So how we respond creates our outcome in our life. And so I just feel that, I guess I could have gone down the victim road, and I could have felt sorry for myself for all my trauma. And, I could have had a big chip on my shoulder and thought, well, everybody owes me something. But that was not how I chose to respond. And I chose to turn the experiences and the adversity I had been through to something positive and some, you know, lessons that I can embrace and also give back because of. And, you know, that's an amazing gift. If I can help others because of my experiences and my adversity, then I'm incredibly grateful for my experiences. And that might sound crazy, you know, considering the trauma and adversity I've been through, but that's where I'm at. I'm at a place of gratitude. And I'm at a place of gratitude because I am able to live a purposeful life and give back and help others, which means that my mum's death was not in vain.
Exactly. And it is all the power is in the gratitude.
Yeah.
Where you can get tears rolling down your cheeks and you feel the gratitude of where you are now. I'm sure you've been at that point where
Yes.
you really, you feel now I'm here and I'm grateful to be alive and to be able to give back, you know?
Absolutely. And you know, during my Resilient Rockstar shows, that's where, you know, you feel the most grateful when you have the feedback from children, especially children coming up and hugging you and saying, I'm sorry you had to go through that, or I'm in a foster home too, and you've helped me to know that it's going to get better, or you know, or just like, you're just such a lovely person, and even though you've been through all that, look how happy you are. And it's so inspiring to hear those messages, and from adults, from women who, you know, I've helped, you know, in abusive relationships and domestic violence situations. And I'll just quickly tell you one short story. A woman reached out to me once on Messenger on Facebook. She had been bashed up by her husband, and she was in the doctor's surgery and going to get some treatment. And she had picked up New Idea magazine off the surgery table, and she started reading my story, which was published in January, the first issue of New Idea for 2020. And she picked it up and read my story. And that afternoon, she walked out of her marriage. And she sent me a message and said, your story enabled me to find the inner strength to leave that abusive marriage of 22 years. And wow, like goosebumps all over right now, Karen, talking about that.
I'm getting goosebumps too. And that's
so this is where the gratitude comes in. And talking about gratitude,
I love that.
I have got an amazing project. This is the Global Gratitude Chain Movement. Now, this is a tiny piece of it. How this project came about, Karen, is phenomenal. So one Saturday evening, a family reached out to me, a father. He was a local community member in Varsity, one of the suburbs on the Gold Coast where we were living at the time. And we had presented our show and also our teenage presentations at the Varsity College and at the Varsity Primary School. So people in the local community knew us quite well. And our show's all about empowering kids to stand up to bullying and build resilience in their life. And this father reached out to me on a Saturday evening, completely beside himself, because his 14-year-old daughter, who was in year 9, had been relentlessly bullied for 9 months and was suicidal. And he didn't know what to do. So he reached out to me and wanted to get any, you know, support, any advice, any information. And so I offered to come to the family home the next morning, Sunday morning, and spend some time with the family and her. And I brought with me a book. It's a book called From Bullied to Brilliant. And it's a girlfriend of mine that wrote this book. She's on the Sunshine Coast. She is an NLP practitioner, a master practitioner. And it's the most amazing book on bullying. and got some incredible affirmations in there. She's a very spiritual person. And so I bought a number of her books as part of our show to give them out. So I took this book and I took some positive affirmations that I'd laminated, and I came to the family home and I gave her the book and explained what the book was about. And then I handed her the affirmations and said, these need to go on your mirror. So when you wake up in the morning and you get ready for school, you look at these affirmations and they're going to help you, get through your day. And then I shared my story with her. And when I'd finished sharing my story with Leanna, she had tears flowing down her face. She came over and she hugged me. This is a 14-year-old. She hugged me and she said, if you can get through all of that you've been through in your life, I can get through this. Wow. That was a defining, transformational moment in her life. And she completely turned her life around. So 3 weeks later, we had a community showcase event on the Gold Coast. We had politicians coming. We had a huge support in the community. And I had activity tables, just, little activity tables to encourage little mental health activities. One of them was a gratitude table. Yeah. And on this gratitude table were paper links like this and pens, and people would write down what they're grateful for in their life in that moment, just stopping, taking a mindful moment and thinking what they're grateful for and writing it down. And we know how powerful writing something down, especially gratitude, it anchors in your neural pathways in your brain, and it's phenomenal for mental health. So Leanna had offered to volunteer at this event, and now we're talking about a 14-year-old. It's not a place to hang out, at a children's show in the community, but she chose to do this on a Saturday. And I put her on the gratitude table. People were lining up to write their gratitude links. And within a few minutes, I looked over at the table and I noticed that Leanna had made a Christmas chain with the links. So she started linking the links together into a Christmas chain that we all did at school when we were little kids. Yeah. And she had this chain around her neck like I do now. Oh, what an amazing idea, I thought. How incredible. Now here is a chain of gratitude links, sisters and brothers side by side, connecting the world through a mindful moment of gratitude. What an incredible thing. Yeah. So that was the start of the Global Gratitude Chain movement. And within no time at all, I was sharing this on the stage whenever we had our school shows, which we performed all over Australia and even on cruise ships. And when I was speaking on stage as a keynote speaker at corporate events, I would bring a piece of the gratitude chain with me. And part of my keynote speaking is actually creating a human gratitude chain, which is phenomenal. Anyway, and it just grew. People from all over the world. I'm talking about India, America, Hong Kong, China, Bangkok, Bali, Singapore, New Zealand, you name it, people who have contributed their links. One school in Christchurch, 1,700 students wrote what they were grateful for on a black link and representing the All Blacks. Wow. So amazing. And so this global gratitude chain has been growing, and it's now, I believe, about 4.5 football fields long.
Whoa.
Yes, and we're about to do a community event on the Gold Coast to laminate the links. So there's thousands of these links that aren't laminated that we need to laminate and join onto the chain. And then we're going to take the chain onto the Surfers Paradise beachfront. We're going to get some drone footage and we're going to measure the chain, and then we're going to apply for a Guinness World Record.
Wow. How cool is that?
Connecting the world through a mindful moment of gratitude.
That
How
is
cool is that?
so when is
How
that event, Donna? When is that going to happen?
well, I'm hoping that in the next 2 months I'll be doing this community event. It'll be filmed, and then we'll measure it, and we'll work out if the chain's long enough, or if we need more people contributing in order to apply for the longest chain.
That is so
So
beautiful.
we want people to get on board. We need people to be writing a link, and we can put the measurements of the link into your notes or whatever. But today I've written this. I've written this gratitude link. I am grateful to have been given the opportunity to be a voice actor on Guilt True Crime podcast. So while I was traveling in my van, I got addicted to this amazing true crime podcast called Guilt. And it's a New Zealand podcast originally. And the guy that's the host is an ex-lawyer, and he's got this amazing intention to bring cold cases back to life, hopefully gaining new evidence and giving some peace to the families who these cold cases have kind of died on. And so, Ryan Wolf is the host, and oh my God, what an amazing, authentic human being. And he sent me an audio script for me to submit to him for the season 4. So the first episode is going out this week. And it's an Australian story about Alana Cecil, who was 16 when she died, and she was in Melbourne.
Wow. Well,
What an amazing opportunity, having this, my favorite podcast in the world, I was listening to and binge listening to on my road trip. I'm now a voiceover actor for.
That's incredible, isn't it? You obviously truly impact people's lives, that's for sure. And that's how I felt when I saw you and tuned into you. And obviously it was through this van life journey you had, which I've also been on. And when I saw you, I went, I need to reach out to this, Donna. So tell me a little bit about the journey and why you decided to go on that van life journey.
Well, over the course of about three years, when I was on the Gold Coast, I was running an Airbnb for a friend, and I was working 2 other jobs, Woolworths, and also I was working as a simulated patient at Bond University, and I love that job. It's just an incredible role, and so I was working really hard, 3 jobs. Trying to, kind of sink them all in and work them all into a schedule, which was sometimes extremely challenging. We were running an Airbnb in the house with my daughter and our dog, her dog, and, at times really sacrificing our privacy, living with strangers, and during COVID. So we had people chasing borders and trying to get over before lockdowns, and people that had come into our home with COVID. And, we had really, sacrificed a lot to run this Airbnb during a very difficult time. With the kind of understanding that I was doing this all to have a home, a house that I could leave to my children. But sadly, that all changed very quickly, and a friend kind of let me down with the whole arrangement around that, and I won't go into that now. But so our lives changed very quickly overnight, my daughter and I, and we found ourselves my daughter having to find a place very quickly to live with her boyfriend and her dog. And I found myself homeless, to be honest, because I couldn't afford rent on my own. The rent prices on the Gold Coast had just gone through the roof post-COVID. And I discovered very quickly that my income was not going to support a rent.
Mm.
So I had a van that I'd started to convert, and I finished the conversion and moved into that.
And it
And
looks fantastic.
thank you.
Van Halen.
Van Halen, Van road tripping. He's a rock star.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, me myself also been in that journey where I stepped away and basically sold everything but a few things. And I want to ask you, how did you do that too? Did you kind of become a minimalist in a very short period of time?
Yeah, Karen, oh my gosh, what a process that was. Talk about cathartic. Oh, 3-bedroom house to a van,
Wow, wow.
So had um, I had antiques. I had beautiful china dinner sets from going back to my mother and my aunties, and
Oh, wow.
jewelry, and all big tubs of my children's books from school and scrapbooks of all their, childhood, and I'd even had bags of their babies' clothes, and I had boxes and boxes and boxes of this, right?
What
Like,
did you do?
so I had to get real, and I had to sell 90% of my things. So marketplace got it all on there. It was just pretty much giving it away at a steal of the price. I offered the meaningful things to my kids, and they took what they wanted, and the rest got given away to charities and friends and sold. And yeah, all I have left is a tiny little wardrobe size storage unit with my books,
Yeah.
and my bike and a few clothes.
But hey, isn't it an amazing thing once you kind of realize that it's not the things, it's the experiences in life that is important, because that's one of my learnings is that, um, in the past where I came from, my mother and my grandmother, they put it was all about the things, it was all about the things and the memories in the things. And I go, you can have memories and you can create experiences without things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you're so right. You are so right. It is, as you get older, I think maybe we kind of understand this more, is the whole value and experiences, and sharing them with people that really mean a lot to you. And that's one thing I've really, really loved about my road trip, is it's been like a reunion. I've caught up with so many friends and family all the way, on my journey, and some people I haven't seen for years. And it's just been an incredibly meaningful road trip because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't it amazing? And I guess through all hardships in life too, you also realize who are the really true friends, who's going to stay, connected with you. Have you found that as well?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And especially with this, recent, experience that I had with a friend, a so-called friend, letting me down, and then, in my predicament I am now.
Mm.
Yeah, I think you very quickly realize who brings value in your life, and who zaps the value, who takes away, and who adds.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's really important that from time to time, it's a bit like we filter out all the crap out of our computers, don't we? And we upgrade our computers, and we get rid of all the unwanted stuff that we don't need. I think we need to do that more with our lives, and even with our brains. Get rid of all the crap, and that's NLP. If get rid of all the crap that's not serving us, and all this kind of limiting beliefs that we have, and live a more purposeful life, that is on point and is, aligned with our values and what we believe in.
And I guess we're in that time, that sort of time frame now, particularly that we're in. We are having to have a look at what's really important to us and ask the big questions as we are expanding their consciousness in the whole universe. I think everyone's taking, well, eventually we'll have take a look at what's going on in life, because if we don't, there's something there lingering that makes us not feel really truly fulfilled. And so it is a blessing, isn't it? I mean, hearing your story is absolutely incredible, Donna. And I absolutely know you're going to just keep making more and more impact. And on the same time, it sounds like you're recreating your life into something so beautiful and so exciting. And I mean, me sitting here and just connecting with you, I always go, there's no such thing as a coincidence. We are absolutely, truly to sit here and connect right now. And I feel extremely grateful to have had this opportunity, Donna, to hear your story and some similarities, in between us both. And on a personal note, I really look forward to getting to know you better and seeing your journey unfold, both of our journeys, really,
Absolutely.
and what the future will bring, I think it's we live in exciting times, even though it's challenging at times. It's still so exciting because I believe the time we're in now is really the time of transformation.
It is. I believe so too. And it's so nice to see a more conscious generation coming forward as well. It had to happen. It really has, because we're self-destructing otherwise, so there's got to be a shift and a change. But when you say that I'm on this new kind of trajectory, you're right. And it's one thing I've noticed just recently is I'm really staying in flow and being very conscious of that. At times it can be difficult because we are kind of, I guess we're coded, or we're to get out there and find work and get money and that kind of thing, which for me, over the past 3 years, I've really focused on, 3 jobs and reaching burnout, to be honest. And then having that time away to really reflect on what is important in life and have some time for me alone, and just to, reflect on what is really important for me in my life moving forward now, for kind of the last chapter. And I feel like I want to make a difference. I want to leave a legacy, something that is beautiful and meaningful, that is global. And I just need to stay in flow with that and resist the urge to go and try and find purposeless work, which we all kind of have to survive, but it's something really trying to resist, because I find right now I need to be in this space. It's really making me flourish.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he was saying, like something about some people it's kind of not very good for their soul to be doing something. You can do it for a period of time when you're very intentional with it. But I myself, like you, Donna, I'm not here to sell my soul to something that doesn't bring me joy and passion in life. And I think that is something I hear from people more and more now. People are
Yes.
realizing that life is too short to do something, but that they don't really truly enjoy. Of course, we got to be paying the bills, and there's immense pressure. You and me know that because we're very passion, purpose driven. And
Mm.
it's very hard for us to be doing something that is not really aligned with our purpose and passion. And that takes a little bit of navigating around. And it does take a lot of resilience, and it takes a lot of determination and, all that. So
And self-belief.
self-belief, yeah, that we can do it. And do you know what? I believe in you, Donna, and we got to believe in ourselves. But sometimes other people may not believe in what we truly believe inside we're here for. And sometimes that can be a bit of a lonely journey in some ways. Would you say sometimes? Because, sometimes people just don't really understand that
Mm. Mm.
path.
Yeah,
We got
unfortunately,
to we got to be very, very strong in
yes.
our belief that we are enough and we are here to create massive impact.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
believe you can do it, Donna. And I
Yes.
always say to people around me that that's the belief I have. If there's willingness,
Mm.
and if people are willing to look at themselves and slow
Yes.
down and do that, and
Yes. Yes.
self-reflect and develop that awareness, and then start to take action and start
Yes.
to look at their beliefs and, did that serve me? Also let go of some connections maybe that didn't serve you before. That's another big thing too, isn't it?
It is, it really is. I mean, I've lost all family connection because I share my story, and it's very similar story to Oprah. Really, she lost a lot of her family connections because she shared her story, but she stayed steadfast as I do. So yeah, I think for many, it's not it's not aligned with them to open up and be vulnerable and share deeply what you've been through. But for me, it's with the sole purpose to help others, and if I can do that, like Leanna, wow, what an impact, what an incredible impact. So that's my purpose, and I am not prepared to be held back from that because people are coming from a place of unhealed.
Yeah. And think about it. The last day in your life, when you lie on your deathbed and you look back, I bet you say, that was a freaking journey. But
Absolutely.
I did what I was passionate about.
Absolutely, that's right. I'm not going to be saying on my deathbed, I wish I wrote a book, because I've written three,
Yeah.
that I've made some sort of impact on others. I believe I already have a number of times. And I've lived an authentic life. I've been honest about who I am, and I've been proud, and I've been grateful for the experiences I've had. I've brought two beautiful human beings into this world, and so I have a lot to be proud of, and I feel very honored, to have this opportunity to share and to be on your podcast today, to be able to share and reach people.
And what I want to say to you, Donna, sometimes people don't just express it enough. Sometimes we have to do it ourselves. But from the bottom of my heart, I think you're an absolutely inspirational woman. And it's been such a pleasure to have you here. And I'm sure that all the listeners will be absolutely impacted by your story and what you do. And yeah, I'm very
Yes.
grateful for. listening to my intuition as always and reach out to you.
Thank you for reaching out to me. Yeah. And, people want to follow me. Please subscribe to my YouTube, Vanlife with Donna-Leigh Perfect. And I'm sharing a lot on there about the Global Gratitude Chain. If you want to get on board this amazing global project and be part of the Guinness World Record attempt.
Yeah. And I will be posting all the information below
Fantastic.
the video so people can reach out to you and to me and learn about all the stuff that us empowering women are about. And just before we finish, is there something that you'd like to share, just something little that you want to finish off saying to the listeners or the people that are watching this video?
Yeah, I believe that if you can wake up and practice gratitude every single day, it will impact so significantly on your life and your mental health in such a positive way. And it's such a simple thing to do. It's free and it has a positive ripple effect on you and the people around you. So just that simple act.
Absolutely amazing, Donna. Again, thank you so much for joining me here on the Transform Your Wellness podcast. And thank you to all the listeners that have tuned into this or watched the video. And I look forward to following your journey, and everyone that's listening. I welcome you to subscribe, obviously, to our channels and to the podcast. And we wish you all the best, everyone.
Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you.